I just learned from the orphanage director that I am not an abandoned orphan but the illegitimate daughter of a wealthy businesswoman. The irony, that woman who abandoned me is my company CEO minus, the same one who fired me this month. I sat in Mrs. Chen's office at Spring Valley Orphanage, staring at the yellowed envelope in my trembling hands. The familiar scent of jasmine tea filled the room just like it did during my childhood years here. Nothing had changed minus the same faded curtains, the creaking wooden chair, and Mrs. Chen's collection of lucky cats still crowding her windowsill. But everything I knew about myself had just been turned upside down. Maya, I've kept the secret for 28 years, Mrs. Chen said softly, her wrinkled hands clutching a cup of tea. Sarah Williams made me promise not to tell you until after your 28th birthday. She said it was for your own protection. Protection? I wanted to laugh. 2 weeks ago, Sarah Williams, the CEO of Williams Tech, had called me into her office. With her perfectly manicured nails drumming on her mahogany desk, she'd informed me that my position was being eliminated due to restructuring. No warning, no explanation, just a security escort in a cardboard box of belongings. I asked Mrs. Chen, my voice barely a whisper. When she fired me, did she know who I was? Mrs. Chen nodded slowly, her eyes filled with a mixture of sympathy and something else fear. She's always known, Maya. She's been keeping tabs on you since you started working at Williams Tech 3 years ago. My mind raced back to all those times Sarah had walked past my desk, her steel gray eyes lingering on me a moment too long. The way she'd blocked my promotion twice, citing lack of experience. The strange tension in meetings whenever I presented my ideas. Here's more, Mrs. Chen continued, pulling out a stack of documents from an old filing cabinet. Your mother minus your real mother minus. She didn't abandon you willingly. Catherine Lin was a brilliant software engineer. She and Sarah were business partners when they founded the company, but something happened. Implied was a birth certificate, a few old photographs, and a handwritten letter dated 28 years ago. The first photo showed a beautiful young Asian woman holding a baby minus me. Her smile was radiant, her eyes bright with hope and determination. Behind her stood a younger Sarah Williams, her smile not yet hardened by years of corporate ruthlessness. Catherine disappeared shortly after this photo was taken, Mrs. Chen explained, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. The official story was that she'd embezzled company funds and fled the country. Sarah took control of the company and you were brought here, but I never believed that Catherine loved you more than anything. She would never have abandoned you. The letter was from Catherine, my real mother. As I began to read her desperate words, tears blurred my vision. My dearest daughter, if you are reading this, I need you to know the truth. Sarah is not who she pretends to be. The code, the patents, everything she built her empire on, minus it was all stolen. I have proof hidden where only my blood can find it. Don't trust her, Maya. She'll try to convince you she was protecting you, but she's only ever protected herself. I folded the letter carefully, my mind already forming a plan. Sarah Williams hadn't just fired me. Minus she'd stolen my mother's company, her reputation, and my entire life. For 28 years, she'd been living off the fruits of her betrayal, while I grew up wondering why nobody wanted me, now sitting in Mrs. Chen's office with my past, literally in my hands. I made a decision. Sarah Williams thought she could throw me away twice minus first as a baby, then as an employee, but she had no idea what she'd just unleashed. Mrs. Chen, I said, standing up. Thank you for telling me the truth, but I need one more thing from you. Anything, dear. Tell me everything you remember about Catherine Lin, every detail, every conversation, because I am going to find out what really happened to my mother, and I am going to make Sarah Williams pay for what she did to us. The next morning found me in my small apartment surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups. My laptop screen glowed with dozens of open tabs minus old news articles, company records, anything I could find about Catherine Lin and the early days of Williams Tech. My mother had been a programming prodigy, graduating from RD at 19. The articles painted her as a rising star in Silicon Valley. Catherine Lin, the future of cybersecurity. Her encryption algorithm had won multiple awards. Then suddenly, nothing. After 1995, she vanished from the digital world as if she'd never existed. My phone buzzed minus a text from David, my former colleague from Williams Tech's IT department. You won't believe what I just found in the archived servers. Call me a sape. 20 minutes later, we met at a quiet coffee shop 3 blocks from Williams Tech. David looked nervous, constantly glancing over his shoulder as if expecting to be followed. After you left, I got curious about your sudden dismissal, he whispered, sliding a USB drive across the table. I started digging through the old server archives. These are the original protocol files from 1985, the comments and the code. Mind if they're all in Chinese? Maya, Sarah Williams doesn't speak Chinese, does she? But my mother did. But here's more, David continued, lowering his voice further. I found an old email thread. The night your mother disappeared, she had scheduled a meeting with the patent office. She never made it there. The police report says her car was found abandoned at a gas station, but there was no sign of foul play. My hands clenched around my coffee cup. She was going to claim the patent independently. Maya fun. David hesitated, running a hand through his disheveled hair. Be careful. Last week, Sarah hired a new head of security. They're doing complete background checks on all employees, past and present. Something's got her spooked. I smiled grimly. Let them check. They won't find anything connecting me to Catherine Lin. Sarah made sure of that 28 years ago. Back home, I spread everything out on my living room floor, minus Mrs. Chen's documents, David's files, and my own research. A pattern was emerging, but something was missing. I studied my mother's letter again, unpence, where only my blood can find it. The answer hit me at 3 a.m., making me bolt upright in my chair, bled DNA. The Williams Lin protocol wasn't just an encryption algorithm, minus it was a message from my mother. I pulled up the original code files from David's USB drive. Most encryption algorithms used mathematical keys, but this one was different. It used biological markers, genetic sequences as part of its authentication process. At the time, it had been revolutionary. Now it seemed like something more. My mother hadn't just created a security protocol. She'd created a digital time capsule locked with her own DNA. With my DNA, I needed access to Williams Tech's main servers. The kind of access only high-level employees had. The kind of access Sarah's executive assistant would have. Opening my laptop, I began creating a new identity. Emma Chen minus common enough to avoid suspicion, rare enough to be memorable. With David's help, I could create a background that would withstand scrutiny. Degrees from prestigious universities, glowing recommendations from top companies. Sarah Williams thought she'd erased Catherine Lin from history, but she'd forgotten one thing: my mother's blood ran in my veins, and I was about to use it to unlock the truth she tried so hard to hide. As I worked through the night, a notification popped up on my screen, minus a news alert about Williams Tech. The company was preparing for its biggest product launch in years, a quantum encryption system based on the original Williams Lin protocol. Perfect timing. Sarah was about to learn that some secrets refused to stay stay buried. Miss Williams, your new executive assistant is here. I stood in Sarah's corner office, my heart hammering beneath my carefully chosen messimo suit. The blonde wig and colored contacts had transformed me. Minus even David hadn't recognized me during our final briefing. The resume on her desk read Emma Chen, backed by an immaculate digital footprint that had taken 2 weeks to fabricate. Sarah barely looked up from her computer, her fingers dancing across the keyboard, the same dismissive gesture she'd given me the day she fired me. References: 5 years at Goldman Sachs, 3 at Apple. All carefully fabricated courtesy of David's hacking skills and some deep web contacts. I specialized in cybersecurity projects and executive support. Ly Williams pecked. Her eyes remained fixed on the screen, but I could sense her attention sharpening. I gave her the practice response. Your reputation for mentoring young women in tech. The Williams protocol revolutionized digital security. I want to learn from the best. That got her attention. Her eyes snapped to mine, searching for a moment. I feared she'd see through my disguise, recognize the features I'd inherited from Catherine Lin, but my mother's Asian features had been carefully hidden under expert makeup and colored contacts. When can you start? Immediately. Over the next 3 weeks, I became indispensable. I memorized her schedule, anticipated her needs, stayed late to complete urgent projects. I learned her habits: minus black coffee in the morning, green tea after lunch, never eat before important meetings. I knew when to speak and when to fade into the background, all while secretly installing David's custom spyware on her computer network piece by piece. The quantum encryption launches in 8 weeks, Sarah announced during a late-night strategy session. I want you to coordinate with all department heads. Nothing goes wrong. This is my legacy. Your legacy or my mother's? I wanted to ask. Instead, I nodded professionally. I'll start scheduling the meetings tomorrow. Late one night, as I was organizing her files, I found something interesting. A folder labeled Cliel Protocols at E. My hands trembled as I inserted the specialized USB drive David had given me. Working late, I jumped, nearly dropping the drive. Alex Williams, Sarah's son and the company's CFO, stood in the doorway. Tell with his mother's sharp features softened by unexpected warmth, he smiled apologetically. Sorry, didn't mean to startle you, just finishing up some filing, I said, quickly closing the folder. Miss Williams wants everything perfect for the launch. You are different from the other assistants, he observed, leaning against the doorframe. More invested. She actually mentioned you at dinner last night. If you only knew how invested I was. I take my work seriously. Join me for coffee, he asked suddenly. Here is a great place around the corner. You look like you could use a break. I hesitated. A fact close to Alex wasn't part of the plan, but he might have information I needed. Access I couldn't get otherwise. Sure, I heard myself say. Let me grab my Coke. As we walked out together, I caught our reflection in the lobby windows. The perfect corporate princess and her mother's destroyer son. Shakespeare would have loved this. What I didn't expect was the way Alex held the door for me, or how his laugh would make something flutter in my chest, or how, when he talked about his dreams for the company's future, I could see traces of my mother's idealism in his eyes. This was dangerous territory. I couldn't afford to feel anything for Alex Williams. He was just another way to get what I needed. But as we sat in that coffee shop talking about everything and nothing, I realized I might have miscalculated, because the warmth in Alex's eyes wasn't just friendly. Myset was interested, and despite everything I knew about his family, despite my mission, I found myself wanting to lean into that warmth. I was playing a dangerous game, and I just raised the stakes. Coffee with Alex became a regular thing. Then dinner, then late-night conversations that had nothing to do with work. Each meeting was a calculated risk, but I found myself looking forward to them more than I should. You're not like other corporate executives, I told him one evening at a small Italian restaurant, watching him carefully fold his napkin, minus a habit he'd picked up from boarding school, he told me. And you are not like other assistants, he replied, his eyes studying me with an intensity that made my heart race. Here's something about you, Emma, something familiar that I can't quite place. I forced a laugh, though my pulse quickened. Maybe we knew each other in another life, maybe. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. Or maybe I've just been waiting to meet someone like you. The guilt churned in my stomach, but I didn't pull away this time. Every time Alex smiled at me, every time he shared a personal story, I felt my resolve weakening. How could someone so genuine be Sarah Williams' son? During the day, I maintained my perfect assistant facade, but at night, while Alex was telling me about his dreams for the company's future, David was making progress with the encrypted files. The quantum encryption launch isn't just about new technology, Alex explained over wine. Mom sees it as her masterpiece, the culmination of everything she's built, everything she stole, I thought bitterly. But I smiled and asked, tell me more about your mother. She must be amazing, building all this from nothing. Alex's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Mom's complicated, she's brilliant, driven, but sometimes I wonder about the cost of her success. What do you mean? He hesitated, swirling his wine glass. There was an incident years ago. Her former partner, things ended badly. Mom doesn't talk about it, but it changed her. Made her harder. My heart pounded. What happened to the partner? Nobody really knows. She allegedly embezzled funds and disappeared. Left behind a daughter, I think. He shook his head. Mom tried to help, wanted to adopt the girl, but there were complications. Lies, all lies. I gripped my glass tighter, forcing my face to remain neutral. How awful. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a text from David. Cracked the first layer. You need to see this. I met him in his cramped apartment, surrounded by computers. Look at this, he said, pointing to his screen. The original protocol wasn't just about encryption. It had a backdoor, a way to access hidden files using specific genetic markers. My mother's DNA, I whispered. And here is more. I found fragments of video files heavily encrypted. But look at the timestamps, minus all from the night your mother disappeared. My hand shook as I stared at the screen. Can you recover them? Working on it? But Maya, I hesitated. Alex Williams has been asking about you. The real you. He's looking into your dismissal. I felt the blood drain from my face. What did he find? Nothing yet. But he's persistent, and he has access to resources we don't. I thought about Alex's warm smile, his gentle touches, the way he looked at me like I was something precious. All while investigating my past. Keep working on those files, I said, standing up. I need to know what's on those videos before the launch. As I left David's apartment, my phone lit up with a text from Alex. I have something important to ask you. I stared at the message, my heart torn between hope and dread. Was he getting suspicious? Or was this something else entirely? Either way, I was running out of time. The launch was 3 weeks away, and Sarah Williams was about to unveil her masterpiece to the world. Unless I could stop her first. But as I typed my reply to Alex, I wondered if I was still just playing a role, or if somewhere along the way the lines between Emma Chen and Maya Lin had started to blur. The restaurant Alex chose was exclusive, minus the kind of place where deals were made and secrets were kept. He seemed nervous, fidgeting with his cufflinks as we were seated in a private corner. Emma, he started, then paused as the waiter poured our wine. Here is something I need need to tell you, but before he could continue, my phone buzzed. David's message made my blood run cold. Your gent, Weeder decoded. Get somewhere private now. I am sorry, I said, standing abruptly. Ladies' room. In the elegant bathroom, I locked myself in a stall and opened a video file. The footage was grainy, security camera quality, but the audio was clear. I watched as my mother confronted Sarah in their old office. You can't do this, Catherine's voice crackled through my earphones. The protocol is mine, I have proof. Be reasonable, Catherine, Sarah's younger self replied, cold and calculated. Think about Maya, a single mother and immigrant Fung. Who do you think the board will believe? I am going to the patent office tomorrow. It's over, Sarah. No, it's not. One call to immigration and you'll never see Maya again. Sing the papers, Catherine. Kadial writes to me or lose everything. The video ended abruptly. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. There was more financial documents, emails, proof of Sarah's systematic theft of my mother's work. When I returned to the table, Alex was waiting with an intense expression. Emma, I know who you are. My heart stopped. I've been looking into some old company files, he continued. About Catherine Lynn, about her daughter. He reached for my hand. Maya, I know it's you. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. How long have you known? I suspected for weeks. The way you looked at my mother, you interest in the original protocol. He squeezed my hand, but I needed to be sure and I needed to understand why. And now I know what my mother did. I found the original patent applications, the threats, everything. His voice was thick with emotion. I am so sorry, Maya. I had no idea. I pulled my hand away. Are you going to tell her? Number. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a USB drive. I'm going to help you expose the truth, all of it. And Gwent, what really happened to your mother that night? My heart raced. What do you mean? He hears more footage. Security cameras from the parking garage. Maya, he swallowed hard. Your mother didn't just disappear. She was forced into a car by men my mother hired. The room spun. Is she when she's alive? Alex's words hit me like a thunderbolt in a private care facility in Switzerland. After the Blonde incident when she was in a coma, my mother used that to take control of everything. She's been keeping your mother hidden all these years, waiting for the statute of limitations on corporate theft to expire. Tears burned in my eyes. Take me to her. I will, but first we need to stop the quantum encryption launch because the new system, it's not just based on your mother's work. It eyes her work. Mom found her old research files and is passing them off as her own breakthrough. I stood up, my mind racing. How do we, Maya? A sharp voice cut through the restaurant. We both turned to see Sarah Williams standing at our table, her face a mask of fury. Step away from my son. Behind her stood two security guards. My heart sank as I recognized them from the video footage, minus the same men who had taken my mother. It's over, Mom, Alex said, standing between us. I know everything. Sarah's laugh was cold. Did she tell you how she infiltrated our company? How she's been stealing company secrets? Working with that IT boy to hack our servers like you stole my mother's work? I shot back. I have proof now of everything. Sarah smiled. But her eyes were hard. Check your phone, dear. While you were in the bathroom, our security team traced all outgoing transmissions. Your friend David's files have been cleaned up. My phone was dead. Mitals wiped. As for the USB drive my naive son just gave you, then she held out her hand. Hand it over or I'll have you both arrested for corporate espionage. I looked at Alex, saw the defeat in his eyes. We had lost. Or had we? Because in that moment I remembered my mother's words. Retensed where only my blood can find it. The quantum encryption launch wasn't just about the technology. It was about accessing the original protocol. And my DNA was the key. I smiled at Sarah, reaching for the USB drive. You know what? Keep it. But I should warn you, the launch is in 2 weeks and I am not going anywhere. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. The next 2 weeks were a carefully orchestrated dance. On the surface I played the chastened assistant, working under increased security and surveillance. Sarah kept me close, too valuable to fire, too dangerous to trust. Alex was reassigned to the London office, but we had already put our plan in motion. The quantum encryption demonstration requires a live DNA authentication, I explained to Sarah during a prep meeting, to prove the system's biometric security features. I am aware, she snapped. I designed it. No, you didn't. I thought my mother did, and she designed it for me. The launch event was massive, tech journalists, industry leaders, and government officials filled Williams Peck's auditorium. I stood backstage watching Sarah rehearse her presentation one last time. Today we unveiled the future of cybersecurity. She practiced her voice confident, a system that uses quantum computing and biological markers to create unbreakable encryption. My phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number, medical transport standing by. Swiss coordinates confirmed. They deleted the message just as Sarah's new head of security approached. Miss Chen, final security check. I submitted to the scan knowing they wouldn't find anything. I didn't need to smuggle in devices or files. Everything I needed was in my DNA. The presentation began exactly as planned. Sarah was in her element, commanding the stage as she explained the revolutionary technology. The audience was mesmerized. And now she announced a live demonstration of our biological authentication system. This was it, the moment we'd prepared for. Miss Chen, Sarah called her smile razor sharp. Would you assist me? I walked onto the stage, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. The demonstration terminal waited, its screen glowing with the familiar interface of the Williams-Lynn protocol. The system requires a DNA sample to generate the encryption key, Sarah explained to the audience. A simple cheek swab. I took the sterile swab, fighting to keep my hand steady. Everything hinged on this moment. The quantum system will analyze the DNA and generate a unique encryption key, Sarah continued. This key will then... She stopped abruptly as the screen changed. Instead of the encryption process, a video began playing security footage from 28 years ago. What is this? Sarah hissed, but it was too late. The audience watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded on the giant screen. Catherine Lynn's confrontation with Sarah, the threats, the parking garage footage, years of deception exposed in minutes. Stop this immediately, Sarah commanded, but the system wasn't responding to her controls. It can't be stopped, I said, loud enough for my microphone to pick up. The system is doing exactly what my mother designed it to do, reveal the truth when activated by her DNA. By my DNA, the audience erupted in whispers as I turned to face Sarah, or should I say by the DNA of Catherine Lynn's daughter. Sarah's face went white. Security guards moved toward the stage but froze as federal agents emerged from the audience. Badges raised. Sarah Williams, one announced. You are under arrest for corporate theft, fraud, and the attempted murder of Catherine Lynn. As they led her away, I noticed movement at the back of the auditorium. Alex stood there next to a wheelchair. In it sat a thin woman with graying hair, but I would have recognized her anywhere. My mother, the audience forgotten. I ran down the aisle, 28 years of questions, of longing, of emptiness, all ending in this moment. Maya, she whispered, reaching for me with trembling hands. My brilliant girl. As I fell into her embrace, I heard the chaos behind me, reporters shouting questions, security trying to clear the room. room, the federal agents reading Sarah her rights. But none of it mattered. I was finally home. 6 months later, I stood in my mother's hospital room in Switzerland, watching her physical therapy session. Her progress was slow but steady. Minus 28 years of minimal movement had taken their toll, but her mind was as sharp as ever. The board voted unanimously, I told her, setting down a stack of papers on her bedside table. Williams Pecht is being renamed to Lynn Tollenschemes. They want you to take an advisory position once you are stronger. She smiled, her eyes twinkling with their old brilliance. And you, CO at 28, quid an achievement interim CO, I corrected. Until you are ready to come back. No, she said, firmly reaching for my hand. This is your time, Maya. I've seen what you've done with the company in just 6 months. The new direction, the ethical AI initiatives, minus you are building something better than I ever dreamed. The company's transformation had been dramatic. After Sarah's arrest and the scandal that followed, many expected Lynn Tollenschemes to collapse. Instead, we'd emerged stronger with a renewed focus on ethical innovation and corporate transparency. Alex called, I mentioned, trying to sound casual. He'd been running our London office, giving us both space to process everything that had happened. The European expansion is ahead of schedule, and my mother's knowing smile reminded me that she missed nothing. And Fawn, he's coming back next week. We're having dinner. Sometimes the best partnerships come from unexpected places. I thought about Alex minus how he'd risked everything to help expose the truth, how he'd spent months helping to track down my mother's location and arrange her transfer back to the States. He was nothing like Sarah. He was in many ways everything his mother wasn't. Mrs. Lin, a nurse appeared at the door. Your visitors are here. Mrs. Chen entered, followed by David, both carrying gifts. After everything that happened, they'd become regular visitors. Mrs. Chen had appointed herself my mother's unofficial caretaker, fussing over her diet and rehabilitation schedule. David had accepted a position as our new head of security, his first act being to completely overhaul the company's ethical guidelines. The reporters are still calling, David informed me. They want to know if you'll press additional charges against Sarah. I shook my head. The federal prosecution is enough, 20 to 30 years for corporate fraud, attempted murder, and international kidnapping. She's lost everything that mattered to her, minds the company, her reputation, her son's respect. That's punishment enough. My mother nodded approvingly. Revenge is easy, forgiveness takes strength. Speaking of strength, Mrs. Chen interrupted, pulling out a container of homemade soup. You need to eat more. How do you expect to run a company if you're not properly nourished? As they fussed over my mother, I walked to the window, looking out at the Swiss Alps. So much had changed in 6 months. The lonely orphan who'd sought revenge had found something more valuable, minus truth, family purpose. My phone buzzed with a message from Alex. Board meeting prep tomorrow. I'll bring coffee. The real kind, not that instant stuff you pretend to like. I smiled, typing back. Only if you let me handle the quarterly projections. Your spreckets are a mess, deal, and Maya, I miss you. Looking back at my mother surrounded by people who loved her, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building something better from the ashes of what they tried to destroy. I miss you too, I replied. The quantum encryption system still sat in our main server room, its core programming unchanged. My mother had designed it not just as a security protocol, but as a safeguard for the truth. A reminder that some secrets can't stay buried forever, but its greatest gift wasn't exposing Sarah's lies. It was bringing me back to where I belonged, minus not to the past my mother had lost, but to the future we would build together. And this time no one would take that away from us.